Should the New York Jets trade back up into the first round? Maybe. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'll be talking about if the New York Jets should trade back up into the first round. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast, the Matt O'Leary NY Extra channel, and of course, Patreon. $5 a month gets you bonus New York Jets content. We got player analytics. We got all kinds of new series coming very soon, so I'm excited about it, and you should be too. Link to all of that down below in the description. So the New York Jets have a ton of draft capital. Shocking. It seems like the last few years, especially under Joe Douglas, they have had loads and loads and loads of draft capital. So they hold in the first the first two rounds, they have 4 picks, and it is pick 4, 10, 35, and 38. They also have pick 69. They have 2 4th rounders and 2 5th rounders. So they have a ton of assets where they could move around the draft board if they want to. Now, rumors have been circulating that the Jets may actually look to move back. And sure, that's entirely possible, but something that's come out in the last few days is the possibility of there being 2 quarterbacks going in the top 10. If that's the case, then there's a more likely chance that a good player is going to fall to pick 10. So maybe moving out of that pick isn't the best idea. And especially if a quarterback goes in the top 3, hello, Detroit and Malik Willis, maybe at pick 2, that means a good player is going to be there at 4. So what about using some of that draft capital from round 2, 3, 4, 5 to get up in the first round and maybe get another stud player? So let's go through a few scenarios and just talk through it. So again, with pick 4 and pick 10, a lot of people have been like, all right, you need an edge rusher and Sauce Gardner. Those need to be KT and Sauce need to be pick 4, pick 10, and really load up on the defense and wait until pick 35 to get your wide receiver. Now, I hear you on that. And I'm not going to say that's a terrible idea. It's not. I understand where you guys are coming from, those who like that, but I am personally worried about waiting to pick 35 for a wide receiver. Sure, maybe you can get George Pickens, who has a very high ceiling, but injury concerns. And number 2, you can maybe get a Watson from North Dakota State, which I think he's extremely talented, but my concern is relying on someone who is playing essentially Division II football and saying, hey, come into the NFL and be productive right away. To me, that seems like maybe better suited as a little bit of a project, a high ceiling project, mind you, but I worry about that coming in and being like, okay, here's all these expectations right away. I think that's maybe a little bit unfair. And sure, some people say that there's not that much of a gap from the top to the mid-tier guys. And I don't know if I agree. I really like the first 4 or 5 receivers in this draft class. So let's play the game for a second that KT and Sauce are the picks at 4 and 10, which I think would be a really, really good draft. And let's say they want to move up because they don't want to wait to 35 to get another receiver. If you want to package both of your second round picks, how high could the Jets get up? I have them at around, this is all numbers taken from the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart. And it's not always a 1-for-1, but I'm just trying to give you context for where things could possibly end up. And both second round picks add up to 10,000 or 10,000. Oh my God. 1,070. So 1070 points on that chart. Pick 15, which is held by the Philadelphia Eagles, 1050. Now, the Eagles have 3 first round picks this year. They very well may want to move out of one of their picks, pick 15 being the highest of them. So maybe that's not the one, but maybe 16 they'd want to move out of. And get more picks in here to continue to build out their roster and build with Jalen Hurts. And obviously we know Joe Douglas has a connection with the Philadelphia Eagles. He spent a ton of time there before the New York Jets. Most recently, before the Jets job, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. So what if he packaged both picks to get up to the Eagles and select the wide receiver of his choosing? Now, at pick 8, the Atlanta Falcons have probably a pretty good chance that a wide receiver is coming off the board there. But even at pick 15, there's a chance that the number 2 available wide receiver would still be there. So whether that is Drake London very well could be available, or he can go first. Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, just go right down the list. I'm missing someone. Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams even potentially in that scenario. So that's one way to do it. And obviously getting up to 15 is relatively high. But what if it was like, all right, I want to keep one of the second rounders, but I'm willing to move pick 35 and pick 69, which is their third round pick. That could get you, it adds up to about 795. Green Bay at pick 22 is 780. So that's a relative range for where they can get to. That might be a tough one to pull off because I think Green Bay is going to be in on these receivers, but you probably want to get yourself around that ballpark because there could be a run on receivers. Like Eagles could potentially take one with one of their picks. New Orleans could take one. Green Bay could take one, which is, again, part of the reason why I don't necessarily want to wait until pick 35 because all the needs or all the teams in the back end of the first round that could go wide receiver scares me a little bit. But getting somewhere around the early 20s is where you'd be if you were, again, to package pick 35 and pick 69. At that point, like maybe some of the big name guys are off the board. Maybe Treylon Burks is still hanging around there, which I think if your haul was ended up being KT, Sauce Gardner, and Treylon Burks, that'd be a sick first round. And you would still have pick 38, which is a high second rounder, which, again, people worry about, oh, well, I don't want to give up pick 35 because that's almost like a first round pick. Well, pick 38 is still in the top 40. It's a very high end second rounder. So you could afford to give up pick 35 to move up because you have pick 38. And then what about like maybe the ultra conservative? You want to give up, you'll give up pick 35, hang on to pick 38. And then I want to hold on to the third rounder, but maybe I'll give up one of the fourths because the Jets do have 2 fourth rounders to get into the first round. That would add up to pick 35 and 111 would be a total of 622 points, which pick 30 is 620. So that's the second Kansas City pick. So that would get you, again, up, but I think you'd probably lose out on one of those wide receivers. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless they want to trade up and like take Nakobe Dean, who could potentially be there still at that point, which would be interesting. That would be 3 defensive players in a row and hope and a prayer at pick 38 that someone falls and that either like George Pickens is fully healthy or that Watson's just so good that he could come into the league and be an impact guy right away. Again, a little bit risky for my taste, but I do see the upside with both of those players. I think that's why my preference is one of the 2 first ones. If there's a world where the Jets could give up both second rounders and get up to like pick 15, pick 14, somewhere in that range, I think you go for it. I think it would be a home run. Pick 14 is Minnesota. No, Baltimore. Pick, which also Joe Douglas has connections to. And pick 12 is Minnesota, which you'd probably have to throw in a little bit more to get back up, all the way up high to pick 12. But the point is, with maybe all this Jets capital, if you really do want to focus those first 2 picks in the top 10 on defense, which again, like if we're not using the trade up scenario, my ideal first round would be edge wide receiver. But if you want to go edge Sauce and then package picks to get up and go wide receiver, I could be okay with that. Though, as I said multiple times in this video already, the thing that scares me the most is when you are seeing the idea of, oh, just wait to pick 35. This guy's in the second round all the time. Well, Jets got pretty lucky with Elijah Moore. And yes, there are times where good wide receivers are found on day 2 and day 3, but there's a ton of risk involved because of every Elijah Moore, you have a billion Devin Smiths, Chad Hansons, or Darius Stewarts, all that stuff. And the Jets haven't had the best luck with it, and they haven't taken a receiver in the first round since Santana Moss, which is over 20 years ago. It's time. It's okay to get to the 21st century of football and try to do well on offense. It's okay. You need more playmakers. You're allowed to go all in, push the chips towards the table and say, hey, let's help our young quarterback and let's improve our offense. So let me know, would you do any of these scenarios? Do you want to just stay put at those first 4 picks? Are you okay with packaging some of them to move back into the first round? Let me know. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.
Wow.